episode 6 of Scorch the Fierce podcast with the great Vincent Lanza. If you're watching this on Instagram Live, although I think I just started, so nobody's on it just yet, switch over to YouTube. There's more stuff happening in YouTube than on Instagram Live. I see everyone joining Instagram Live. You can watch it there, but I'm not going to be looking at you at all, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to hear Vincent. I'm going to try my best to make it where you guys hear Vincent, but it's not going to be the main focus. The main focus is on YouTube. Just look up my name, Jonah Corchin, on YouTube, and you're gonna see like actually Vincent's face and not just my face. So that's up to you guys, but it's gonna be lit. It's gonna be great. Vincent,
Yeah.
how you feel? How you feel to be on the podcast?
Oh, I'm excited. I really appreciate you inviting me. We've been friends for a while, right? Gone out to Japanese food together, and
You're my sub-2 mentor. I don't know if you know that or if I've said that. Is like, since you live in San Francisco, you were the first. When I joined sub-2, you were the first person I hit up. It's like, hey, I got these leads. I have no idea what to do with them. We went on that appointment in Rodeo.
That was
didn't work out, but like still at least we had some leads, and like work and stuff. I owe you a deal. Like you talked to me and helped me out so much that like it's just like, God, I need to get you one. But okay, so introduce yourself to the few people who don't know you are. Like, what are you doing in real estate? How'd you get it? Let's start with, what are you doing in real estate right now?
Yeah, currently in real estate, I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm doing some fixing and flipping. I'm doing some buying and holding. I'm focusing in on creative financing. We're part of the sub-2 community with Pace Morby, so I'm doing some teaching and things in that as well. And just focusing on building up my own personal portfolio for passive income, as well as just looking for deals across the nation that make sense with our team that we can dispo, fix and flip, and again, some of them we hold on to. So I think this is year 2022. I'm super excited about what's happening in real estate. I know, different people have different opinions. I think it's going to be an amazing year. And when I started, coming out of 2021 and going into 2022, I was super excited, and was on a Zoom call with a lot of people last night in the real estate business. So we're all kind of feel that energy of the new year and the things that lie ahead. So
I think it's going to be a good year too. I mean, honestly, like, yeah, inflation's a little scary and maybe interest rates will go up, but I don't think interest rates would have to spike for it to really like do anything super duper crazy, at least in my opinion. So I think it'll be fine. How'd you start in real estate?
So I actually started in real estate kind of through my family. We had some property that we held together that we were renting. And so I ended up, because I was the one who was able to deal with the management of that, I ended up doing the management of the property, like paying all the bills for the property and, collecting the rent and doing all that. And so that was okay. I kind of always...
This was in California? Was this in the Bay Area? He lives in San Francisco, guys. He lives in San Francisco like me.
I live in San Francisco, directly in San Francisco, as does Jonah. Yeah, so, I kind of was always like opposed to being a landlord because I always pictured it as the largest massive headache you could possibly want to take on.
Right.
But over time, my wife, and she was really interested in houses. She was always constantly, trying to get me involved in real estate. I was the reluctant one, but I did enjoy business, and I've always enjoyed business. And I've actually had, oh, wow, we just got blown up.
I want to switch it up. I want to see, I'm testing stuff out. Like, as I'm doing these podcasts, I'm like, okay, what happens to engagement out of the couple people who are in here? Like, when I do that, it's just interesting. But
so anyway, but I've always enjoyed business. So my wife and I went to some real estate events here in the Bay Area, ended up joining a mentorship, learning about real estate, ended up wholesaling here in the Bay Area. And from there, we ended up connecting up with Pace Morby and learning more about creative finance, which really just expanded a whole new world to us, being able to take over property subject to and creatively through seller financing, et cetera, et cetera. So this last 2 years has been just an accelerated journey in real estate, even during the COVID era. Like, actually, we were doing deals during the COVID time, and it was amazing because we were able to offer.
Give me a little bit of a timeline. So when was this rental? And then
the rental was probably started in about, I'm going to guesstimate around 2010 or so. And so from about 2010 to like say 2018 or so, we were doing that. I was just like basically renting a property and managing it. And then about that time, we ended up getting more interested in real estate. I ended up joining a completely different mentorship and, learning some things from there. And then in about now when Pace started his mentorship was in like April, May of 2020. So it was like right in the heart of the COVID era.
Yeah.
And so now that's going to be going on a couple of years just with that. So that's kind of the general timeline. I would say things accelerated once we started learning about all these different things, which initially was wholesale, right? That was the first thing we learned was wholesaling, but I had never heard of it before. I had heard of it because I was in the wholesale business, but it was like we were wholesaling like tourist items, like and luggage and umbrellas and electronics and everything in a business that I had. So I understood the concept of it, but I never realized that it happened in the real estate world. And so learning that like opened up a whole new thing. Then learning about subject to and seller financing opened up even more doors, right? So
and then it just goes crazy after you do much financing.
Yeah.
So talk quickly about how do you source leads? Because this guy has, like been. Did you coin the term Lanza method? Was that you?
No,
Who did that? Was it Pace?
That was Pace Morby that coined.
Okay, so basically, he got coined by the great Pace Morby on the Lanza method, which is just basically a method where you use wholesalers to find deals. But don't go crazy into it because this won't be too much about real estate investing, but it just explained the general method and how it works and how you do it, just real quick.
Sure. So just generally, and yeah, we won't go too much into that, but just generally what we do is we reach out to wholesalers, and wholesalers, and I know this and you know this because both of us have done a number of different wholesale deals. We need to contract a property at a low enough price to where it makes sense for us to put some kind of assignment fee on there and then sell it to an end buyer who ultimately probably is going to fix and flip the property 9 times out of 10. So we would reach out to wholesalers and find out leads that they had, sellers that they had talked to that were just not willing to sell the property cheap enough for it to make sense for a wholesale deal. And I know a lot of sellers are saying, well, I don't want to give up all the equity in my property. So they're willing to sell, but they want to get a certain price. And then what we try to do is convert those into some kind of creative deal where we either take over the mortgage subject to or ask them if they're willing to sell or finance the property. So, doesn't happen all the time, but there's a good number of people out there that will sell their property at the right price and also give you creative terms. But the difference I think that we have is that we're able to pay a little bit more for the property if we can structure the financing around it that makes sense for us.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, seller financing, you and me agree, is just kind of the way to go. It's the best way to actually own properties. 100%. Like, why deal with a bank ever if you just don't have to? And honestly, it's cool because we can solve more problems than 95% of the people. I'm right now at a real estate conference in Nashville. That's why you're not seeing the regular background of my room. I'm in a hotel room. And these flippers, they're great. They can do the cash thing. It's cool. But I'd say like 96% of them don't know what creative financing. Well, they know what it is, but they've never done it.
They've never done it.
So it's cool to be able to talk to people about it if they're curious. You kind of can make a name for yourself being that guy who, does creative financing. And so it's cool. I really like these. Like it's a fun time for sure, learning seller financing and being able to do it. And Pace is just a dope dude. Just in general, he's a cool guy. So it's cool being in his mentorship and seeing him from time to time, which is fun.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So what's the next milestone? What's the next goal that you really want to achieve?
So starting out this year, I think like one of the probably primary goals is going to be a couple of different things. Is to on a personal level is to build up our own personal portfolio. I think that my wife and I are have this plan and vision of having just a portfolio of passive income to where we just have a number of different properties that bring us in money, and then that's going to just help us to keep going and do what we need to do and go on trips and do whatever we want to do. I think also, we're wanting to build up some legacy for our family, some inheritance for our family. And just to be in that position to where, we're able to pass on something to our children, to our grandchildren, and et cetera down the line. And beyond that, just definitely always have a heart to help people and to reach out and to just work with more people. And so, doing things like this, like we're doing right now, Jonah, and doing more education. And I think Ann and I are actually working on starting up something kind of based around helping married couples who work together. So I think that's always an interesting prospect to be married and to work together. So we're building up a bit of a help kind of, I'm not going to call it a mentorship, but just like a help program around there. So we're working on that tonight. That's where she's at right now. She's on a Zoom. Yeah.
Wait, what does Anne do in the business?
Oh, so Anne, first of all, she keeps me from getting in trouble. So
That's good. I
like, sometimes I can be a little bit bullheaded, right? And I really want to do something like
visionary type. I get it.
You need to like just second think this, like just pull it back a second, just take a second look. But beyond that, yeah, she helps me with some of the administrative things. And when we do flips, she's really good at decorating places and picking out colors and furniture, and not necessarily furniture, but you know what I'm saying, flooring and carpeting and designing. She's really good, has a good eye for design. And also she helps with the management of some of our properties. And so sometimes when I'm about to like punch one of my tenants in the face, no, don't say that. She's a lot more soft. She's a lot more soft with the approach.
That's good.
So.
That's good. So real quick, drop some knowledge. What is some good advice for anybody who's watching, who's married and working with their partner?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I would say, to be able to work together, first of all, communication is really important. I know I have a tendency to be sometimes not always as communicative as I should be. And so I'm reminded that the communication is important because, if I'm doing something and my wife doesn't know what's going on, then, she's, thinking things in her mind, whereas if I communicate, and I think that's true in a marriage, if you can be open and honest and just communicate your feelings and not try to second guess, because what happens when you don't communicate is that we create these scenarios in our mind that we think we know what you're thinking. Right. And that can, and then
you guys know each other so well.
Yeah. Your imagination goes wild. Right. So, but if you communicate, so we always work constantly, even now on that, and what's nice about that is I think when you start out in a marriage, there can be a lot of tension and there's a lot of growth that needs to happen. But if you can, get those communication skills together over time, it makes your marriage a lot more happy. It makes it a lot more peaceful. And I think it also cuts down on the disagreements.
Right. No, I get that 100%. Okay, cool. That's a little thing. So I'm going to get into the meat and bones of why we do this podcast. I always say it I always let the guests know, and I let everyone know that the point of this podcast, I should probably start at the beginning saying what the point of this podcast is. But the point of this podcast is basically to talk about fears and like, what type of fears are we dealing with? How do we overcome fear? What were the fears at the beginning? Because I've come to the realization, or at least I think, and my first question might be this, if you agree or disagree, but I've come to the realization that I think everything that holds people back somehow relates to fear, whether it's fear of unknown, as in, I don't know what I'm doing, so I don't know how to do it, fear of like not being successful, fear of like, just like being too successful. There are just so many. So what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me on like what I just said?
No, I mean, I do agree with you on some of the fears that we have. I mean, I know that I had some of those fears, especially when first starting out. So, fear of not knowing what you're doing and those type of things. Yeah. So I would basically agree with you.
Yeah, 100%. So when you started, Vincent, what was your biggest fear?
So I would say the one that you talked about, not knowing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember our first wholesale deal, which was a good wholesale deal that we picked up here in San Francisco. And I distinctly remember having to put here in San Francisco, a lot of times we have to put down larger deposits. I mean, sometimes in states, you're only putting down, out of state. Sometimes it's as low as $100 for the deposit, right? But here, usually it's like 3%. So if you're talking about, $1 million homes, like you're talking about $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 deposits. So we had to do that. And then we're filling out the paperwork, and I was completely panicked, completely freaked out because I didn't really know what I was doing. Now, fortunately, we had some mentors that did know what they were doing, that we could bounce this off. And I think that's, in real estate, I think that's super important to have somebody that is more experienced than you, that has already been down that road, that can help you navigate that. But even them, at some point, they were getting kind of irate with me because I was just being so insecure about not making sure that, I would keep asking them, and they're like, just do what I'm telling you to do. It's going to work, but, and I was like, but. So, Yeah, I think fear of not knowing what you're doing is definitely a strong one. But I mean, again, overcoming that is by, getting with somebody that does know what they're doing, and somebody that you can trust, and learning from them and having them navigate through that time with you. And then, once you've done those things, you learn from the experience, and you're able to pick up and do it on your
Go
own. But
into what you were talking about before with your first deal. You were saying like, just trust me if you do it this way. Like, what was happening there? Where like you were afraid of, like, because you didn't know what you were doing. Go more into that.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, because we had to put down a substantial down payment, right, which was, technically refundable if we were to cancel the contract. But at the point in time where, we were signing contracts, and we were making up assignment contracts, and we were taking things to the title company and doing it was all like foreign to us, right? It was the first time we'd ever done it. So we kept calling this mentor that we have, and every step of the way, I just kept asking them, like, what am I supposed to do now? And then they're like, okay, you're supposed to do this now, right? Like, you're supposed to put the assignment contract to the title company.
Right.
Let them know, you're supposed to, do this, and all the steps that we had to go along the way. And so I think I was I think I was overthinking in a way. And I think, having not done it before, and having actually never even heard of wholesaling before, I would just had that fear that, somehow it was going to fail, or somehow we were going to lose the deposit money, or somehow something was going to go south, right? So I think that's something that probably holds us back, right? Like, we kind of a lot of times tend to look at, is everything going to go wrong, rather than, looking towards everything going right, right? So
yeah. And this was before you were part of Pace's mentorship, right?
This is all before.
That's what must have made it so much more scary. I was part of Astro flipping when I did my first deal, so at least I could get it from Jamil, who, is a beast, and like just could tell me every part. I had already done their course, so I saw the exact process, what's supposed to happen. So yeah, I can't even imagine if you're literally starting from scratch and you're not doing a course, you just have to like be with a mentor, like making sure things are happening exactly how they're supposed to happen. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's usually definitely the fear of the unknown is a hard one. So how did you get over that? How do you think one gets over whatever it is, whether it's, let's start with the fear of the unknown when you were dealing with it at the beginning of your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think getting over the fear of the unknown is, learning, going through the learning process. So, I mean, anything that we take on that's new, right, it's going to be a new experience, like this was for us at the time. And we're going to have to jump into it. But I think one thing that I've learned is taking imperfect action is better than taking no action at all. So if we allow fear to paralyze us to where we do nothing, we'll never get anything done. But if we break through those fears and say, I may not know anything, but I'm willing to learn, and I may make mistakes, but I'm going to learn from those mistakes along the way. And it's only just going to make me better. It's only just going to make me more successful. So I think the only way to persevere through that is to just do it. Take action and do it. Don't let the fear hold you back.
Right.
And even if you don't know what you're doing, you'll learn. I learned so much in the last 2 or 3 years of something that I knew absolutely nothing about like 3 years ago.
Right.
And now it's like we're teaching other people, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but if I had never taken action, if I had said, well, I'm scared to do this because I don't know how to do it, then I'd still be sitting in the same place that I was sitting 3 years ago. And I wouldn't have, a portfolio of properties, and wouldn't have done, a number of real estate deals and a few, some flips, etc. Because I would have been paralyzed by saying, well, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm not going to do anything at all. So you just have to just take that step, right? You have to take that step to say, I understand I don't know what I'm doing. I've got, like you were saying, if you got a good community around you, like you had Jamil and that community around you, and we have a good community, right, in the sub 2 community. Yeah, step out, do it, take the action, make mistakes. You'll learn from the mistakes, but you'll pick yourself up and be able to do it. And the next time you'll know more, right? I mean, even like just within the last month, like I did something that I would say was kind of dumb. And it was, a little bit, a deal that was a little bit hurtful. And I just learned like, oh, that's what I should not have done. So I'm not going to do that next time. Like I learned
Would you be willing to talk about that deal a little bit?
That one I have to kind of
keep it secret. Okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So then we'll talk about this. Yeah, no worries. I get it. Certain deals, it's just like, Jesus Christ, I can't believe that happened. I want to talk a little bit about community with you because you're a huge community leader in Sub 2. Like, your like name is constantly mentioned. You literally have a whole method named after you. So people are constantly, like, if you go into the Sub 2 Zoom vault, you see your last name as the Lanza method. So I kind of want you to talk about real quick, like, what do you think? How do you think the value, like, how do you think the community affected your journey and affected how you feel about being able to jump in and just do it, as you were saying?
Oh, wow. You know what? I think the community gave me a lot of courage, and the community gave me a lot of confidence, because what I felt was exactly what you and I are talking about, is that, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but I have all these people that are supporting me, many of which, have a lot more experience than I do, and that I can learn from, and I can reach out to, and in different respects, and in different needs, and having that. So having that community around you, I think that has made a great deal of significance. And I mean, I don't feel like we would be where we're at today if we didn't have the community around us, right?
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
just because, I just wouldn't be able to do and have learned the things that I've learned. And so many people are always so, in fact, like, I was just thinking before we got on, like, I'm dealing with a situation right now that I need to talk to somebody in the community and just ask them, like, what their opinion is, or what their advice would be on doing something, because it's something that I haven't done before. And we do that with each other all the time, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
you hit me up on certain things and are asking me things, and that's great.
Yeah.
So I think the community helps you to break through the fears in knowing that you have a support system. Having a
Yeah.
support system is so important, right? I mean, even like whatever you're doing, like even when you're growing up, hopefully not everybody, but hopefully if you have a strong support system, it gives you that confidence to, move out of your parents' house and go to school or do whatever you're going to do. And that support system, is there for you, and so the support system within a business community, like we're doing in real estate, really helps you to overcome the fear, I think. Yeah. So it's absolutely. And if you have a strong support system, like, there is in the Sub 2 community, it's just, pretty incredible, the mindset that's in that community.
Yeah, I think, just giving my opinion on it too, is just community is so important because I think it gives you the permission to fail, and you're not going to fail at a level that kills you, which I think is like a huge difference. Is like the issue that I feel like, I can't even imagine doing it completely on your own. Like, I don't even understand how anyone would ever do that if, like, you didn't have a mentor or didn't have somebody to start in this business. Like, I don't understand how you would in any way be able to do anything really. Like, you just have to, like, you need somebody like Pace or Jamil, or just even you or me with like wholesalers that we hit up that just knows what they're doing. Because otherwise you might get in legal trouble or something, because wholesale, like, I mean, there's a lot of regulation around real estate, for instance. So yeah, I mean, and Sub 2 is just such an amazing community, and it's a good one for sure. And I don't know, it's a great one too. Are you part of any other communities other than Sub 2?
Yeah, I work with some of the guys in a company called Privy, Privy.
Oh,
We
I
do
know
some,
them. They're really
yeah,
good for MLS searching, aren't they?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's an online platform, and so yeah, we do some networking stuff with them. I'm trying to think, I'm in a couple of other things, like, something, a couple of other mastermind groups and stuff. But the main one that I focus on is the Sub 2 community. That's the one where I, focus most of my attention in terms of leadership and, doing the things that we do within that community. But I like networking is my thing. I love networking. I love meeting new people. I love just seeing what other people are doing. I love learning from different people. So yeah, I'm super big on networking. It's just fun, to learn and to meet new people and just hear what other people are doing in real estate. It's like, different people you meet are doing all kinds of different things,
Yeah,
right?
doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah. So it's always,
100%. So I wanted to ask you about this, since I already know this is a little bit of cheating, since I knew you from beforehand.
okay.
That, are you a pastor, or are you just
Oh,
like, or am I completely wrong about that? I
no,
might.
you're actually right. I am
You're
a
gay.
pastor. of a church here in
Because
San
I knew
Francisco.
you were a pastor because I've heard on Facebook when you were like reciting Bible verses. I'm not
Mhm.
religious at all, but your voice is very soothing, so I used it to go to bed, which I
That's what
don't
you
know if
do.
I ever told you, but like, it was like a good way to just go to sleep, like you were reading Psalms or something.
Yeah, whatever
So,
works.
do you think, because I've noticed this in real estate in general, I don't know if it's because America's religious or just that real estate in general, like a lot of people are religious or like have some sort of faith background. How do you think, because I'm willing to bet, like, how do you think your faith has been able to help you in real estate, especially with getting over the fears we were talking about?
Oh yeah. Well, no, definitely. I mean, so a lot of things have helped me within my faith to get over those fears. And, part of that is just prayer, like daily praying and daily just setting my mindset to, what lies ahead for me. And also just knowing, what things are said in the Bible. Like there's a scripture that says God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So rehearsing those things helps me to get my mind set right, my heart set right, and my spirit set right. So just, yeah, it's just, a daily thing that we do, my wife and I do, is we wake up in the morning, we pray, we get our minds going in the right direction. We're praying and asking God for direction. And so, really everything is centered around that. That's what our lives are centered around, and has helped us to overcome the fears because, we know that there's a power greater than ours that is directing our steps, and we're always constantly trying to listen to direction and help from God. So yeah, definitely I would
100%.
say, having there's a great scripture in the Bible that says, you go through the fire and you won't be burned, and fear not, for God is with you. So,
Yeah.
you can go through the real estate fire and not be burned because God is with you. So
100%. I'm going to do this real quick because I see there's some
yeah.
people on Instagram. Just
Okay.
FYI, guys, if you want to see Vincent, actually like see him on the screen, go to my YouTube channel. Just look up my name. I'm going to put my name in here real quick. You can stay on Instagram if you want, but you're just going to see me and then hear Vincent. So I don't feel like that's the best way to do it. But anyways, I got to I'm still trying to figure that out of how to do this with the Instagram Live. I really like because people can see what's happening. But I
Yeah.
don't know. But so far, I've had technical issues. Like if I got you on the Instagram Live, then there's like reverb or whatever, and then it just gets super complicated. So I'm like doing it now where this is just going on. It's just gonna be looking at me. But that's that. Are you like do you like every Sunday like lead service? I'm just curious. Like I didn't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't
So
understand.
actually, what my background is in the church world is really mostly as a musician. So I've been doing music in the church for many years, and at one time we were traveling around all over the world doing music and doing music camps and stuff. We were in Europe, many countries in Europe and Asia, all around North America, Mexico, and Canada. But currently, like with the whole pandemic thing that's happened, like we switched over to doing a whole bunch of stuff online. So we still do that. And so, but on Sundays we'll still, in fact, we have a whole setup in our living room. We have a keyboard and we have a PA system and stuff.
I
And
love
so
it.
we got concert going on in our living room every Sunday. I play guitar and sing. And then also, I do speak and stuff from time to time as well.
I
So,
love it. So okay, if you could tell one thing, let's do this. If you could tell
okay.
three things
Okay.
I'm going to do three things because that's just more interesting. Three things to Vincent Lanza when he's doing his first wholesale deal or he's doing his first real estate investments and he's feeling that fear. He doesn't know, like, what would you tell yourself right when you're starting? Three things.
First thing I probably tell myself is take a deep breath, don't freak out. It's going to be all right. Like you just need to walk through the process. So that would definitely be the first thing I would tell myself because I was just too much in panic mode. The second thing I would say is like take in what's happening to you right now and learn from it and use it as a stepping stone to get to where you want to go. And, like instead of being all panicked about it, just, take a deep breath, chill out, and then just learn through the process. Like take in what you're learning, listen to your mentors, walk through the process of working with a title company and some of the obstacles. Like one of the things that we dealt with was like we were supposed to get an assignment fee, and I think the day before the deal closed, I called the title company and I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. And they were like, well, we don't know what you're talking about. No, wait, I brought the assignment contract personally to your office. What do you mean you don't know what I'm talking about? So, I mean, we caught it before the closing, but it's like, really, so,
Jesus.
learn from it and be thorough. And let's see, you said 3 things.
Just real quick before you say that, I really want to just because it's just so funny how everything is always the same for everyone. Like I remember my title company, I had one deal where it's the day of closing. And I'm like, what do you like? Okay, so are we closing today? And they're like, what? Like, oh, nobody's emailed me back in 2 weeks. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what? You aren't you supposed to stay on top of that? And then I kind of learned you're supposed to use a transaction coordinator for stuff like that. Like I thought the escrow company, that's their job. That's not really their job. Their job is to do the paperwork, but you have to stay on them. I learned that, and that's what the transaction coordinator does.
I learned that too. And sometimes you have to stay on top of the transaction coordinator too.
Yeah, sometimes if that's happening, then it's usually like I'm starting to learn, like we can talk about that later, but yeah, I think the transaction coordinator should definitely also stay on top of the escrow. But anyway, so
now we got the third thing. I think the third thing is, which I've been learning more and more, is to try to be more even keeled, enjoy the process. Like, don't let everything be so stressful to you, right? Like a lot of things when I first encountered them, they were so stressful to me. And then over time now it's like, it's just part of the deal, And so I know a lot of people, right? When you've done that, we've both done this, right? You go through deals and something goes wrong, something goes south, and then you're all stressed out and what's going on.
Does.
Yeah, but I think if you I think I would say to myself, just take it all, take it all in stride. Like it's part of the process. Don't let it stress you out. Just like, look at the problems head on, just walk through them, but don't let it stress you, right? Don't let it, because if you're not doing something, if we're not in real estate because we enjoy it, like, yeah, it's a good business. Yeah, you can make money doing it, but that doesn't make sense if it's not something that you enjoy, right? And there's a part of it where you actually help people, right? Like, that too, right?
Yeah.
There's a part of it where, like, some of the things we do, we're able to get people into homes that normally wouldn't be able to buy homes, right? We're able to, maybe fix homes that are all dilapidated and have been sitting around, and it improves the neighborhood. It gives somebody a nice home to move into. We take the time and effort to do that. So I mean, there's a lot of things that you can look at here and say, it's fun, right? And it's not only fun, but it's not only helping you, but it's helping others as well. So I think I would say to myself, like, just enjoy the process, and when you run into problems, like, just don't go into panic mode. Just take it all in stride. And honestly, since starting this business, I've learned that a whole lot more. Because if I went into panic mode every time something happened and went wrong, that doesn't work.
100%. Like I feel like everyone does it. I have a highly anxious personality in general, which is super annoying. But in this business can really blow that up. And I've been having to try to learn new strategies of like meditating and doing all of that stuff to reduce anxiety. What do you do? So how do you not go into panic mode?
So again, starting out with what I was talking about, right? I mean, my process is just trying to stay in that place of peace. And I remind myself again of things in the Bible that it talks about, like where Jesus said, my peace I give unto you, right? So I try to start my day in that way, right? So it's very easy to get up and start your day by just like, we all got to-do lists. I mean, you're probably like me. I wake up with a whole list of things that I have on my mind to do. But rather than doing that, like, I'll start my day with prayer and just trying to get myself centered and focused, right? And try to calm myself down so that when I go into doing the things that I need to do that day, that I'll be prepared for it, right? And I think, if you jump out of bed and you just start getting into everything right away, it kind of tends to put you in the frenzy right away. Whereas if you take the time to just do what you personally do, which for me is praying and just, centering myself for the day, it helps me during the day, right? To remind myself that, like, to not panic and not to get stressed and not to get anxious. So I think it's a routine of doing that every day, just starting your day by,
What's the morning
praying.
ritual? Like, what do you do?
So
You wake up and then
I'd wake up, and then generally, like,
what time do you wake up? Let's start there too.
well, okay, so there's no set time. On certain days I'll wake up earlier because we're doing like Zooms and things early in the
Right.
morning. I would say, generally speaking, now probably wake up at around 7 or so, 6:37, and then probably spend about 30 minutes to an hour praying. And then, depending on what's going on with the schedule, usually then I'm
30
jumping.
minutes to an hour?
Mhm.
Damn, that's a long time.
Seems like a long
At
time,
least
but
for me, that feels in
yeah.
my head, because that seems like a long. I don't pray, I meditate, and to meditate for more than 15 minutes in my head is like a lot. That's
You got to
so.
work on that one.
I do need to work on that. So go through I have more questions, but go through the rest of it. So 32 an hour of prayer.
And then I'll get up and just like look at what my schedule is. Usually my schedule is going to be involving like jumping on either some Zooms or getting on some phone conversations, or possibly on certain days, jumping on some training things with some, various trainers and mentors that we work with, which obviously one of them is Pace. And and then, we're just into our day, and every day I suppose is a little bit different, but normally most of our day is spent like talking to people, talking to sellers, talking to other people that we're working with, just dealing with, sometimes managed properties, just everything that you're going to do
That's
around.
that's the rest of your day. So
Exactly. Once you're hitting the ground running, you're hitting the ground running.
definitely the part that's helping you, I can tell just by doing this a few times now, is that it's the prayer. It's like 30 minutes to an hour of prayer. I feel like that, first off, you would say that's really what's keeping you from going into panic mode. I feel like, is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say.